Suge Knight finally admits and comes clean about something that I've been trying to tell you guys for a long time now. Yeah, it was a lot that you didn't know about this music industry and what was going on at that time. Let's get into some of this straight game.
Yeah. Blackjack. Life is like a game of cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Yeah. Blackjack. To play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button, notification as to get the video moving out a little bit more. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and definitely tell a friend. But most importantly, if you would like to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game or I drop a video, please do me a favor and hit the bell notification right below this video. I'm going to get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, Suge Knight finally admits what I've been trying to tell you guys for a long time now, that has been denied by various amounts of people, but Suge Knight finally admits it. Suge Knight said in a recent interview that there's a lot of people naive to what goes on in the music business and behind the scenes, as well as dealing with his prison situation and going to jail and so on and so forth. But I'm going to deal with the music business aspect of it first and foremost, because what Suge basically is saying is a lot of people didn't know what was going on.
Exactly. You know, a lot of this stuff is just basically the public is naive to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of things in dealing with incarceration, even business, there's a lot of politics, you know.
And when I released the bail agreement, there was a lot of people who claimed to know or claimed to have known about the bail agreement that didn't know. They just didn't know. They didn't know. They didn't even understand the legal jargon and contained in the bail agreement, and also as well as the information on who paid the bail and how the money would be paid back, right? But Suge knew, right? And so what Suge had spoke on was basically, you know, people being naive, but also how David Kenner was getting paid $100,000 a month, right? And how Jimmy Iovine actually introduced Suge to an accounting firm who Suge alleges stole in between $30 to $40 million.
But I had caught the accounting firm who Jimmy introduced us to. They stole like about $30-40 million, you know.
Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but what's interesting about that is that there was a lawsuit against an accounting firm in which the accounting firm and I believe Suge Knight, and there was a settlement, right? But what was interesting is Suge said that David Kenner was getting $100,000 a month, right? And, you know, paid by this accounting firm, and that Jimmy Iovine was getting a kickback of $100,000 a month, right?
And they was giving David $100,000 a month, and David said he was giving Jimmy a kickback from $100,000 a month. So we was paying him for all the work he did as an attorney, and they was giving him $100,000 a month.
Wow.
And buying cars and houses and stuff.
Now, this is alleged by Suge Knight, but what I find interesting about this is the fact that when I brung out the bail agreement, right, people were like, no, you know, this is not true, that's not true, you know, and telling people that, you know, 2Pac wasn't actually legally signed to death row. And now you know by Suge's admission about people not knowing, right, that that's true. You can't go past the documents that had to be submitted to the court. So if these documents right here weren't not submitted to the court, then 2Pac wouldn't have got out of jail. because this was, Tupac needed basically a cash bail. He couldn't get out with a property bail or anything like that. They didn't trust the fact that, he would return back to court, So they wanted a cash bail, and that's what basically prevented him from getting out. So when Interscope and Warner Brothers put up that money, there was behind the scenes activity going on in which David Kenner was the guy who basically facilitated and done all the paperwork. That's why he was getting paid so much money. And so when you go back on it, and when they say, Suge said, well, and Jimmy Iovine was getting $100,000 a month, right? Now you understand why it was what it was, because Jimmy Iovine was in charge. And Jimmy Iovine could basically make that decision in regards to that. Suge Knight also states that he had he signed all checks above $5,000, right?
My thing with my accounts was I signed all my checks. So any check was over $5,000, I definitely had to sign it.
So if that was the case, and Jimmy Iovine was able to be paid $100,000 a month in an alleged kickback, and David Kenner was alleged to be paid $100,000 a month for being the lawyer, then what that tells you is that Suge Knight really didn't have the power that he thought that he had. And the reason why is because the people that were cutting the checks and had jurisdiction over what was going on with Death Row was Interscope. There's no way on God's green earth that you could get cut $100,000 check a month to David Kenner as well as to Jimmy Iovine without some kind of power of attorney or some kind of clause in the contract that Death Row had with Interscope. You just couldn't do that. And Suge admitting that he had to sign, or he signed any check that was above $5,000. You understand what I'm saying? So now, a lot of people have gotten this wrong, and I'm trying to give them the business about what was really going on and how it really goes down in the music industry. Like I said, for Tupac to even be allowed to record under Death Row, it had to go through Jimmy Iovine, because his original contract was with Interscope. And we know that Tupac was still signed to Interscope when he went to jail. So a lot of people have gotten this wrong. I'm trying to bring you the facts here. You understand what I'm saying? And so when you understand that, you're going to understand all of these people who have been talking about what they thought they knew, they really didn't know. And the reason why I know that is because if they did know, then they would have brung you the bail agreement before I did. Right? I told you what gave me the heads up on what was going on was because back in like 95, 96, I told you, like I said, I had asked Tupac, I'm like, yo, how did you go from Interscope to Death Row? And he just looked at me and laughed, right? And so, and he didn't really have to elaborate on that in regards to that, but that was the deal that he had made in regards to him getting out of prison. And I understood that now, you know what I mean? So when you think about what happened, it's like, okay, I get it. And so what was supposed to happen actually didn't happen. And so now you got Suge coming out telling the truth about that, saying basically that, a lot of people are naive as to what goes on, the politics in the music business and how everything works. And so you understand now why Jimmy Iovine hired David Kenner to basically handle all of the dealings with Tupac in regards to that, and had David Kenner sign on, or had David Kenner submit a letter to Tupac in which he would be representing Tupac. You understand what I'm saying? Before Tupac got out of jail, that one-page letter. Now you understand why that was so. So now, Suge was there, but he really didn't have the power. The lawyers and Interscope had the power. Look, this is what we're gonna do, and I showed you guys David Kenner's name on that bail agreement as the representative for Tupac, right? And then you have Interscope, you have Warner Brothers, you have all of the other information contained in there. So now you understand what it was. And like I said, people have been talking and saying certain things. Even Suge Knight even says in the same video how they just wanted his company. You know, it goes, they just wanted the company from him, right? And most people didn't know this also. It's like having a mortgage on your house, right? So when Snoop went to jail, you know, had got charged for the murder thing, right? Basically, what Suge did is Interscope gave him a loan, right? But the collateral that was used to get that loan was the Death Row Masters. So most people don't know that the Masters were leveraged against leverage, basically used as leverage for the loan. So until that money was paid back, right, Suge and Death Row was basically indebted to Interscope, right? And so that's why I knew also that Suge didn't pay the bail for Tupac. I was like, no, he went and got money for Snoop. You know, he said $5 million. I don't really know the exact amount, but I do know that he went and got money from Interscope because they were holding the purse strings. You know, with Suge admitting that Jimmy Iovine introduced him to the accounting firm tells me that Suge's business sense of not going with the accounting firm that Jimmy Iovine actually would have him deal with, right? He really didn't know any better at that particular time because, you know, I mean, to me, that sounds like a conflict of interest. I don't want to go to the accounting firm that you introduced me to. I want to pick my own accounting firm, you know, that can do the numbers. But why Suge did that was because of Jimmy Iovine's power over the situation. You get it? So it's like, you know, I'm going, okay, Jimmy said this. You see the picture with Suge Knight in the backyard with John F. Kennedy Jr., Jimmy Iovine. So it was like Suge was groomed for the situation that he was about to be entered into. Because these guys, Jimmy Iovine, these guys had been in the music business for years. They knew the ins and outs and how it ran. And so, once again, a lot of people say, you know, talk about Jimmy Iovine and say, yeah, Jimmy Iovine. It was just business. And people handled business accordingly. Just like for Tupac, it was business, right? Once Tupac understood, you know, what wasn't going to happen in regards to a contract being written up with him signing for Death Row, Tupac got tired of it. Tupac then wanted an audit, right? So basically auditing. Now here comes the audit of what? The what would have to had been audited was Death Row, but not only Death Row, but the accounting firm that Jimmy Iovine had introduced Suge to handle the books, in which Suge allegedly stole up to $30 or $40 million. You understand what I'm saying? So once you understand the business aspect of it, you're going to understand, you know, what really went down and why the situation was the way that it was. And so, no, none of them had anything to do with the death of Tupac Shakur. What happened to Tupac in Vegas was an isolated incident in regards to Orlando Anderson and that whole situation involving some prior situation in regards to a gold chain at the Lakewood Mall. You understand what I'm saying? And the undercurrent of what was going on with some hood stuff, you know, versus what was really going on with the business of music and how things go. So that's why sometimes you got to watch out, you know, who you affiliating with, who you dealing with, who you hanging around. Like I said, because a lot of times, you know, it brings about things that don't even have anything to do with you and you might not be aware of and get caught up in the middle of. And that's what happened to Tupac. So Suge Knight, Jimmy Iovine, they didn't set anything up. None of those things happened from that perspective. It just happened the way that it happened, you know. And but there are a lot of preceding things that if were done correctly, that situation wouldn't have ended the way that it did. Your boy DELRAY, straight gang.